Wayfinder, a new online action RPG developed by Airship Syndicate and game publisher Digital Extremes, released in early access in August 17, 2023, with a full release planned in 2024. In Wayfinder you must harness the power of a Wayfinder, which are the characters you will take control of in the game. Join forces with friends to strengthen your powers and control your adventures online, with a vast selection of customization modifiers when exploring the immersive world, collecting valuable materials, and crafting. Explore dungeons, hunt beasts, and battle enemies with friends to gather crafting materials for weapons, housing, augments, and more that will be of utmost importance in strengthening your character and pushing back a hostile force called the Gloom. The gameplay loop revolves around you entering the Lost Zones from the Big Gate in Skylight or found in the open world areas of the game. Lost Zones are the instance dungeons of Wayfinder which at the current moment are divided into expeditions and hunts. These dungeons are procedurally generated and are ever-changing due to their chaotic nature, meaning no two adventures to these locations are the same. They each are varying quests and objectives to complete, enemies to defeat, loot and resources to obtain, puzzles to solve, events and more. Completing Lost Zones offers many different rewards and is a key component of character progression. As you progress through the main questline, you will also unlock the ability to modify a Lost Zone's difficulty, as well as add mutators that further alter each experience. Skylight is the main hub of the game. Here you will find almost everything you need from crafting new weapons to summoning new Wayfinders. Combat in Wayfinder is like a third-person action game and depends on which character and weapon you have currently equipped, with a big difference in gameplay depending on whether you have a melee or ranged weapon equipped. You can customize your chosen character with a variety of weapons, each with different playstyles and skills, and enhance your power with different augments. So for me I chose to start with Wingrave and started with a sword and shield, but later changed my weapon to a two-handed sword, but I also tried the daggers. With two-handed sword each time I hit an enemy, it built up momentum which can be spent on the special attack that is different for each weapon. The more momentum I had the stronger the attack. The more you use a weapon type you will level one of the 4 masteries for each one, so for me using the two-handed sword, I increased the executioner melee mastery and unlocked 3 options from which I could only choose one. So with 6 Wayfinders and over 20 weapons, you can customize your chosen character the way you like. Lost Zones are the instance dungeons of Wayfinder which at the current moment are divided into expeditions and hunts. You will unlock the majority of these by following the main story of the game. The expeditions are similar to other dungeons in online games. You go in a procedurally generated dungeon with different events and enemies, which are related to the zone you choose, though here you can add different modifiers for increased difficulty and different mechanics each time you run them. These mechanics are different for each modifier and may vary depending if you put 2 of the same modifier or not. The hunts or the boss levels as far as I know are not procedurally generated, though you can use the same modifiers as in the expeditions. Since this is an early access game of course it has some problems, but the team is working on solving them and improving the game, adding more to it as time goes by. Here are some pros of the game. Visuals look great, animations are fluid, and the areas are dense with objects and detail, making them feel much more immersive. However, I am expecting some people to dislike the somewhat cartoonish graphics. This comes down to preference. Combat has to be the best part about this game. It feels like a simplified, more forgiving Dark Souls, with some mechanics thrown into the mix. It has a great foundation, and I strongly recommend new players to mess around mixing light and heavy attacks, jump attacks, and animation cancelling with guard and abilities. Mashing left click will give you a boring experience. I have little to no experience with guns so I cannot talk about those. Boss fights are amazing. The initial few don't have much going for them, but as you progress you encounter various bosses with various mechanics. So far, all of them felt unique and fair but challenging. And also some cons. Several technical issues, and this is what most people have been upset about including myself. Launch was an absolute disaster, but the game has stabilized a bit and queue times are far shorter now. However, I have encountered several bugs, some of them forcing me to quit and re-queue again, and there are also occasional disconnects which seem to be decreasing in frequency. Also the game has some lengthy loading times, and for a game that constantly sends you between dungeon town open world, I found this to be a little annoying. Combat can feel a bit shallow, especially in the beginning. I mentioned combat as a pro, but I think it definitely has room to add more depth in what the player can do to damage enemies. Wayfinders only have 4 abilities, and weapons only have 1 for a total of 5 abilities. You do have access to light, heavy, jump, counter-attacks, parry, and guard, but I would like to see some more unique gameplay outside of the basic moves. Hopefully, additional Wayfinders and weapons will fix this issue in the future. Story is delivered poorly. I ended up skipping most of it, so I don't actually know if the story is good or not, but the way the story is presented is primarily just an NPC explaining everything to you with some voice acting and a dialogue box. There are occasional cutscenes which were cool, but overall it does a poor job of immersing you into the story. After all this, I think I will keep an eye out for this game as it has potential. What do you think? Please leave a comment with your opinion, also like and subscribe.